I've waited 100 years, and I'd wait 1,000,000 more for you. Nothing prepared me for the privilege of being yours would do. If I had only felt the warmth within your touch, if I had only seen how you smile when you blush, or how you curl your lip when you concentrate enough, I would have known what I was living for all along.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Morning Coffee. I'm your host, Rick Alexander. You can follow me at the Morning Coffee Podcast on Instagram. You can also follow me at RickAlexander_. I'm going to start with a little bit of housekeeping news today. So last week, first thing, we'll talk about the video. So last week, I had started doing video production of all of the Morning Coffee episodes. And what I really like about that is it really forced me to get my idea straight so I could go and just kind of let it rip without editing any of the content. And I did that first batch of videos last week, and I began uploading them to Vimeo. And I realized that the quality of the content isn't what I want it to be. It doesn't match what I would consider the quality of the message. And so until I can hire a production team that can help me figure out how to move into the video space in a way that I'm proud of, in a way that I think matches the quality of the message, then I'm going to pull back from video and we're going to continue to do the audio only. Only thing is, if you do like the videos, I do them on my personal Instagram on @RickAlexander_. On all the Instagram TVs. And I'm going to be doing 1 or 2 of those a week, and I've already done a couple of them. And again, the tonality in those is a little bit different. It's a little more direct, a little less inquiry. But I'm really having a good time doing those. So if you like consuming content in that way, just give me a follow on there. And that'll be the best place to do that. Second thing I want to say very quickly is the Clarity Academy Immersion Program is still for sale. And so we have until the end of this month to sell that out. We have, I believe, 4 spots left. And the immersion weekend will be in the Outer Banks, North Carolina, and it will be on September 27th. That will be a weekend where we work through the Clarity Academy content, really figure out who you really are, what you really want for yourself in this life. And I've also got guest speakers coming in. We've just confirmed Ryan Munsey, who wrote a book called Fuck Your Feelings. He will be in talking about some of the things that tend to get in our way as we begin to go after what it is we want. So in the Clarity Academy, we really teach you how to structure the vision for your life and how to figure out what it is that you really want and who you really are and what your specific obstacles are. And then we are going to have different methods at helping you move through those. And so one of the guest speakers that will be coming in that we've just confirmed is Ryan Munsey. If you guys are interested in signing up for the Clarity Academy Immersion Weekend, head to rickalexander.com. Again, it's on September 27th. All you've got to do is put down a deposit. We'll set up an interview and we'll figure out if it's a good fit for you or not. Okay, so today what I want to talk to you about is your appetite for risk and going into the world and creating the life that you want. So one of the things that's very interesting to me is we tend to want to do something with our lives. Like we have an idea for ourselves or an idea for our lives, and it tends to sit deep in our soul somewhere. And we don't always listen to it, but it's usually like that business we've considered starting, or the book we've considered writing, or maybe it's the person we've considered talking to or trying to date. We have all these ideas and aspirations for our lives, and they tend to sit below the surface. Because one of the things that happens as soon as you begin to engage with the world is you get struck by imposter syndrome. I've talked about imposter syndrome many times on here. It's this idea of who am I to do this? And that's what you're going to be struck with. And I've dealt with this on many different levels throughout my career. And it's something that I've actively worked on getting through and figuring out how to get my mind around so I can conceptualize what I'm doing in a way that allows me to go forth and confidently do the things that I want to do. You know, I come from a military background. I'll be speaking to the Air Force next week. And so there's a lot of times where I have to really get through this idea of imposter syndrome, like I'm an imposter to anything. Because the reality is that I have a truth and I stand on that, and there's a lot of people that this truth can help. And so that's also why I think it's important that you begin to pursue what it is that you want to do. because you have this subjective reality and you've experienced the world in a way that only you have. And so you have gifts and you have things that you could do to help people that only you could do because it's your unique subjective reality. We're all experiencing it, but some of us are experiencing it differently. And if you can figure out where you're experiencing it differently and you can double down on that, that's where you're going to find the most success in life. Like that's where you can actually begin to stand apart from the crowd. But one of the things that I wanted to submit to you today is the fact that, to be honest with you, you were actually born to do nothing but be adaptable. And I write about this in my next book quite a bit, but this idea that, look, we're born into the world and we have this need for a mother, right? And for parents and for this nurturing to take place and to help us feel safe in where we are and to develop us and to develop our physiology. But other than that, the only appreciable skill that humans bring to the table is that we're highly adaptable. And so all of the different environments that we're going to find ourselves in, we have the ability to adapt to them. And, you can think about a way of conceptualizing the world. And when you watch little kids play peekaboo, that's actually the way that you move into the world. And that's why that's the best way to get over this imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome is just no more than who am I to do this? But as you begin to engage with the world, you're going to be struck with that a lot. And so if you ever watch kids, they'll hang out around their parents' legs. And sometimes if there's a stranger or maybe it's a friend, a family friend or something like that, and the little kids are playing peekaboo with them, you'll see them pop out from the legs and you'll see them like kind of make a funny face and they'll go back behind their parents' legs. And what's happening right there is that the kid is in his safe area, but he's simultaneously exploring the world that he doesn't know anything about. But he always feels safe. And this is the key to go back behind the legs. And so that parent, so the role of nurture in our life is to become that safe spot. And actually it screws up our developmental psychology if we don't have that safe spot. Because if we don't have it, the world actually feels more unsafe to us. And that's a problem because as you think about someone that would have a high appetite for risk, like me, for example, well, the only reason I'm able to do that is because I know how to build structure and safety into my life and because my parents were nurturing. And so I always had that to come back to. And it's interesting because my siblings are the same way. But the way it screws up your developmental psychology is if you don't feel like you have routine with your parents, you don't feel like they're a safe space, well, then the world feels unsafe to you, right? And so the reason that screws you up is because you are way less apt to take risks if everything in the world is unsafe to you. But if you can go out and explore it and you can come back, well, then you have a way of actually going to go after the things that you want in your life. And so with yourself, think about these things that you've always had this idea that you might want to do or you might want to take on, and then ask yourself, have I built a structure and a routine and something in my everyday life so that I have that known, that safety, that area that I can be safe in from which I can go out and explore the world. Some of you heard me talk about the recipe for a flow state. Flow state when you're doing some work and you when you get into a flow state, you could think about that as the optimal way of being, right? For us, because we lose track of our time and when we look at the world in a flow state, well, we're really good at making really high pressure decisions with ease, it seems. And so it's something like that's the optimal way of being for humanity. And if you think about what is the recipe for a flow state, well, the recipe is something like you are planted in what you understand and you're simultaneously exploring that which you do not yet understand. I know I've talked about this on the show before, but I just want to do a quick recap because this is invaluable in overcoming imposter syndrome or going to explore the things that you really want to do in the world. Because as soon as you go do that, you've got to know where is the most optimal point for me to be to go continue to do these things. And so if you think about the things that give you a flow state, it's things like surfing, right? When you surfing is something you probably know, and you won't get in a flow state if you're not good at surfing. But if you're good at surfing, and surfing is what you know, you're rooted in what you know, but you're also moving through time and space. You're also exploring that which you don't know. So that recipe is going to induce a flow state. And I would say for life, the more ways you can build a flow state into your life, that's the most optimal way to be for humanity. It's how we were born. It's how we explore the world. That is the recipe for optimal being. And so if you think about the things that you want to do in the world that are big, ask yourself, how can I stand in what I understand and what I know? How can I build structure for myself? How can I be safe? And then also begin to go out and explore the things that I feel called to. Because if you don't ever do that, you'll never know what's out there. And if you never know what's out there and you don't confront it, you'll never know what you can be. And so you've got to be willing to do that. You've got to be willing to engage. But if you go too far, if you don't have that safety, well, then you end up in chaos, right? That's not flow, that's chaos. And sometimes that happens. And sometimes there's a place for that, right? Like sometimes when you do a really big life transition, like for people jumping out of the military or leaving a corporate job or leaving college, well, it does feel a little bit like you're in chaos sometimes. So in order to get out of that chaos, you got to start being planted in what you know. You got to start building routines. You got to start leaning back on networks. You've got to find some familiar footing so that you can actually feel safe and you can actually go explore. That's why it's important to do that with your kids, and it's why it's important to do it with yourself. Because developmentally, that is how we map out the world. That is how we explore the world that we don't know. You can do it with your thoughts. You can do it with your vocation. In all areas of your life, if you stay with one foot in what you know and one foot exploring the frontiers that you don't know, that is a way of optimal living. That is how you continue to evolve. And so you got to ask yourself, based on the things that you want to do, right? Whether that's to write a book or start a business or to start a podcast or whatever that looks like for you, how can you parcel that apart so you can stay rooted in what you know and begin to continue to explore things that you don't know? You will realize that this show will never stop evolving. Now, I got to find a pace so it doesn't out-evolve the audience, right? I've got to find a way that I can continue to break these messages down so they make sense for you guys, but I've also got to continue to push and evolve the show in some way. And so that's what you saw last week with video, right? It was like I probed into what I didn't know. I realized that if I were to jump in there too far, I'd be in chaos. It's like, okay, I'm going to come back to what I know. I'm going to go back to high quality audio content for now. And then I'm going to come up with a plan. I'm going to recapitulate my world and my program and my plan. I'm going to hire for what I don't understand. That way I can still stay in what I know. And then I'm going to push off into that unknown. And we're going to keep doing that. We keep doing it. We evolve. We find new frontiers. And our life continues to evolve and change as a result. So I love you guys. We'll talk tomorrow. Same place on Morning Coffee.
If I do look down, if I do look low, I'ma do a little dance, and I'ma make a little love. And you know this right. If I do look down, if I do look low, I'ma do a little dance, and I'ma make a little love. And you know this right. Won't you wait till I'm home? Won't you wait up and ride on? But if I change, if I go, put it down on me, put it down on me. Won't you wait till I'm home? Won't you wait up and ride on? But if I change, if I go, put it down on me, put it down on me. Put it down on me, tell no one yet, it's all low-key. Do you wanna stay or do you wanna leave? Wanna feel my bump, but just take my keys and go. And you know this right. Now you're looking at me like I can't have it, cause I ain't an actor or a dude with a British accent. But I got a lot of bad habits, and I got the personality of an addict. Whip up my stick like it's magic. Roll up, then we pass it, and then we'll wake up in the morning looking at each other like it never really happened. Would you wait till I'm home? Won't you wait up and ride on? But if I change, if I go, put it down on me, put it down on me. Won't you wait till I'm home? Won't you wait up and ride on? But if I change, if I go, put it down on me, put it down on me. I wanna know, my lady. If you want me now, yeah, baby. I wanna know, my lady. If I do look down, if I do look low, I'ma do a little dance, and I'ma make a little love.